Good, beautiful Saturday morning. Welcome to My Green Pets. I'm William Green, and I'm going to show you some of my orchids in bloom today. And we'll talk a little bit about the dry season. Officially, the dry season has started in my collection. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But first of all, let's see what's in bloom. Hiding back here in the back, we got Bulbophyllum lepidum with its second bloom spike opened up. Very pretty little flowers. Super nice. And these only last a couple days. But I enjoy it anyway. RLC Jessie Lee finally bloomed out and is looking lovely. I wasn't sure if she was going to be really wonky or not, but so far she is just looking great. Good to see you again, Jessie Lee. Bulbophyllum echinolabium also looking particularly nice this morning. Really nice flower with nice long petals. Very stately indeed. Looking really nice. Alright, so November 1st for my collection is the kind of official start date of a 4-month dry season. And the reason I decided to start doing this, because when I was researching about my plants, especially my Cattleyas rexes, which are kind of the focus of my collection, the climate data where they're from indicates a 4-month reduction in water. We're talking half, even less, maybe even a third as much as it gets during the rainy season. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to replicate these conditions during in my collection, because what I have noticed over the years as I've grown these plants is that in the winter I have problems with the plants. Sometimes, for example, if you look at this little guy, I would get these black spots on the leaves, right? They would just kind of appear. And in the very worst cases, plants actually started to rot from the base, and within a day or two, the brown or yellow had reached the top of the bulb, the leaf fell off, and the whole plant ended up rotting and dying. So this has happened. I mean, I started out with probably about 25 little seedlings, and I have about maybe 14 left. So it's happened to several of them. So I do the dry period because I think it's going to help me avoid those types of problems. So the keys for the dry period, first of all, are number one, temperatures don't change that much. I try to keep my temperatures warm during the day, so around 80 degrees Fahrenheit, around 26, 27 degrees Celsius. At night, a nice cool down to mid 60s Fahrenheit, upper teens Celsius, 17, 18 degrees Celsius. And then I really try to keep the humidity high, so 60 and up, 60% and up. And it's tough because in the dry season, you want to keep humidity up, but you want to water less. So I have been using I water my collection with a spray tank. And so I just spray everything in the morning. Just the surface, just the leaves and the top of the medium, and nothing. I don't soak anything through. Now in the summer when I water, I water until water is pouring out the bottom of the pots. But in dry season, I don't do that. I just sprinkle it on the top, get the surface nice and wet, get the leaves wet, and then seal the tent back up and go. And I'll do that twice a day. Well, I'm doing it twice a day right now. So I'll do it in the morning. When I get home in the evening, humidity has already dropped down to like 40-something%. I'll do it one more time in the evening, and then in the morning, the humidity has dropped it down to 60 something like that. So because there's less water in the tent, because the pots aren't soaked, everything dries out much more quickly. But it's okay. Too dry is better than too wet, for sure. Especially a lot of the Cattleyas, too much water around the roots, and not even that much, but even not much can still be too much. can cause the roots to rot, and then that can pass on to the rest of the plant, and then you've lost your plant. So that's basically it. Fertilizer, I really reduced fertilizer down to almost nothing, just a little tiny bit. I wish I could be more scientific for you, but here's what I'll do. I'll show you how I measure it out. Let's go look. All right, so this is the fertilizer that I like to use. It is from First Raise. It's called K-Lite because it's very similar to the MSU formula, but it has only one potassium instead of a lot of fertilizers have a higher number of potassium. And this is based on research I'm not going to go into, but it really works well for my plants. So in the summer, this is my little teaspoon here. And in the summer, I usually mix, let's see, I used to have a little scale, and I weighed it out. It was about 1 gram per gallon. I would mix this stuff up and use this every watering in the growing season, okay? So basically that's what that looks like. No, it's not very precise. Now, in the winter, during the dry season, it's like I just get enough to cover the bottom of the spoon. That's it, like something like that. And I'll put that in pretty much every watering, just so there's something in there, but not. It's definitely not much. And then I'm not really soaking the plants. You know, I will still soak them. Maybe I'll take them either to the sink or try to rinse them out a little bit. But for the most part, it's just spraying on the surface. And I have pretty pure water. I think my ppms are around 80, 90, so it's not terrible. And so yeah, that's my fertilizer. Now this group of plants, of course, they get a really legit dry season. They drop all their leaves, and then they are just leafless for 4 or 5 months out of the year. So let's have a look at these guys. This is Cattleyas Rebecca Northern. I'm just going to grab her by her leaves here. Let's change the camera angle so you can see a little better. And Rebecca has got 2 spikes. And that one looks like you're starting to be able to see some little buds on it. This one too. Really excited. Looks like you can even see a little bit of like pink coloration on there. So really looking forward to that. Right behind it we have Mormodia Jumbo World. Got this guy back in 2015, and 2 nice spikes pushing out on it. You're just gonna start to be able to see the right about here, the beginnings of the spike, the buds. You'll start to see pushing out that kind of like that lollipop tip there. And then this spike kind of looks weird. It's got a root coming out of it, but it will start growing out this way. And I actually put this black folder behind the plant because what I've noticed is that when the sun shines on the white side of the tent here, it can actually be so bright that it will cause flowers and growths to grow toward it. And the last thing I want is for the growths to grow toward the wall. I want them to grow out this way, spill over the side of the pot, and look really nice. So at these early stages, I'm kind of planning how do I want these spikes to come out and display. So the folder, hopefully that dark folder, is going to urge this little guy to bloom out, push, come out this direction and not go that. It looks like he's going to, so it looks good. But a few weeks ago, Hal opened up a flower facing the wall, and it was because the spike was so close to the wall that the bright light reflecting off that was actually attracting the flower. So I had to get him away from there. Don't want that. I've seen a little bit of progress in the question about shriveled roots, shriveled bulbs, plants with roots being shriveled. Why would that be? This plant has been really shriveled up most of this year. And this past week I started dry season. I stopped watering so much, try to keep humidity up. And would you believe, with less water, this plant has started to take up more water. Its bulbs are still shriveled, but they are more three-dimensional now than they were. The leaves have plumped up. They were really wrinkly and dry looking. So this plant is actually, since I reduced the amount of water it's getting, it's actually taking up more water, which is, I'm just guessing maybe I wasn't letting the roots dry out enough so that they couldn't absorb. I have no idea, but anyway. And then something I wanted to draw your attention to. I've been wondering about these black root tips. Look at this root here. You can see that, of course it's very blurry, hang on. You can see that it had a black tip, and then the root grew past it with a green tip. So the black part, oops, I want to do. The black part got just kind of, it just grew past it. So what caused it to do that? The other ones around it still have black tips. No idea. Something similar over here. This is another root that looks like it had a black tip, but then it looks like the root is growing past that black tip. So I'm like, okay, are those, what is that? Are those dead cells? Or is it a buildup or something that it can grow past? I don't know, but I'm still very curious. I've gotten some really interesting responses about, black root tips. But there's been so many of them and so many different ones. I'm not sure, I don't have any kind of definitive descriptions or information. So we're going to keep experimenting. But so far, dry season looks like it's going to go well. I'm going to do my best to not water as much as I want to. I always tend to overwater things. And now the seedlings are a different story. These seedlings, I will keep them drier, but because the temperatures are pretty much the same, they're going to dry out at the same rate that they have been drying out. So I'm just going to watch them really carefully, make sure they are dry before they get water. But the seedlings might get a little bit more water than the adult plants, which is fine. They can handle it. I want to show you this little precocious little guy. He's growing out the side of the wooden pot there, and then if you flip him over, he's got root coming out down here. I love that. I love roots. I love unruly roots. Very exciting. Got a new growth coming out here, completing. Another new growth back here. These are kind of late season growths, but it's okay. So yeah, any questions about dry season, please feel free to ask. Again, I do it, one, because I have grown Cattleya rex for 7 years now, coming on 8 years. And wintertime is always a challenge with that plant. I lose one almost every winter. So still fine-tuning things, but keeping things dry in the winter is definitely important. We're going to see if we can get through this winter with no fatalities. Fingers crossed. And another reason I do dry season is just because it's fun. I like to play around with things. I like to change things up. I like to try my very best to approximate the conditions that these plants get in the wild. So it's just fun for me to do that and see how the plants respond. So that's it. Thank you guys for stopping by this week. I'm William Green, and you guys have a great one. See ya.